Atlanta, home to two figures in history, Martin Luther King Jr. and Jimmy Carter, both fighting for justice in their own way. But in 2025, does MLK's dream still live on? I spoke to the young generation of Atlanta about their hopes and dreams today and took a look at the historic streets of Auburn Avenue and the exclusive bars. I set out to find the real Atlanta, rooted in its history, and then deep underground, I found something that I never expected. So let's dive in together, shall we?
Welcome to Atlanta. Welcome to the city and birthplace of Martin Luther King. Welcome to another episode. I'm excited to show you guys around Atlanta today and the surrounding area. It's a city of two sides. On the one hand, I think it's a big, important part of the story of Atlanta, the civil rights movement, and the hopes and dreams of the younger people here. And on this episode, I'm going to take you around into the underground of Atlanta, as well as just show you some of the normal areas and sites. But more importantly, we're going to spend some time thinking about how Atlanta has developed over the last couple of decades and where it's today. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Lean back, let me take you along as we explore the fascinating and complex history that makes Atlanta, Atlanta. Come on, guys, we are on a walking tour at the moment, and I'm exploring Atlanta. So, on the footsteps of Dr. Martin Luther King. It's pretty cool. They are taking us around the city, and it's about a 3-hour tour, I think 2.5 mile walk, and so far so good. So we'll come along and take some looks at some of the sites.
Located in the Auburn area of Atlanta, we started the tour on the footsteps of Ebenezer Church, where MLK Sr. was the pastor, and his father before him ministered there as well. It was only natural for MLK Jr. to carry on his legacy there. You can visit the church when it's open, and for more information on times, go visit the National Park Service website, which is managing this historical site. I was in awe thinking this church was founded by John A. Parker in 1886 and only had 8 members, and now over 6,000 people attend the services weekly. Let me know if you think the civil rights movement would have been what it was without the Ebenezer Church in the comments below. From there, we made our way down to the historic Auburn Avenue, which was once the heart of the Black community and one of the richest areas of African Americans at its time. An example of this newfound wealth was Madam J.C. Walker's hair products. She was the first self-made millionaire, and some say the inventor of the multi-level marketing scheme. She employed over 20,000 women in her heyday, selling hair products, catering to Black women. Since Dr. Martin Luther King was born in Atlanta in 1929, we couldn't pass up the chance to visit his childhood home. While he lived in different parts of the city and attended high school there, he earned the nickname Tweety for his sharp sense of style, often seen wearing tweed suits even at a young age. Little Tweety. Reverend Williams, MLK's father, moved into the house with his wife, the daughter of then the Reverend of the Ebenezer Church we visited earlier, and it was there that they welcomed the birth of Martin Luther King Jr. The home is currently closed for renovations until November of 2025, but you can visit otherwise. It's hard for me to grasp today how difficult life was and how deeply segregated America was back then. Some might even argue that this is still the case. Martin Luther King Jr., along with other leaders, spearheaded the civil rights movement. Against the backdrop of Emmett Till's lynching, Brown versus Board of Education, and other pivotal events in history. Great change often comes with great sacrifices for those leading the transformation of a nation. A sacrifice that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. paid at the end with his life when he was assassinated in 1968 outside of the Lorraine Motel, foreshadowing his own death the night before at his famous speech, "I've been to the mountaintop."
What will happen now? We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life, longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
The tour really made me realize how complex the history is and how Atlanta has shaped the civil rights movement. I can only say this, in every step we take, his dream walks on. But what about now? What does Atlanta look like in 2025? And where do the deep-rooted dreams of hope and equality fit into the present? The city has grown into a thriving hub of culture, business, activism, yet the echoes of the past still shape its future. I talked to Shane, a young man I've met as I was walking along the park, telling me his story.
Shane. And where are you from?
I'm originally from New York. I was born in New York, but I was raised down here in Atlanta.
Okay, cool. And how long have you been back in Atlanta for?
Probably like 20 years.
Okay.
So I've been here most of my life.
Most of your life. And
Yeah.
have you seen a change over the last 10 years?
Yes, it's kind of getting more to where it's kind of just like certain people in certain aspects are kind of forced in and certain other ones are kind of forced out, and they're forced to like different cities, whereas Atlanta kind of just wants to maintain like a nice image.
And so it's not becoming as affordable anymore, or what do you mean by forced out?
Yeah, so especially with like rent, groceries, all of that, everything is becoming a lot pricier. Rent has kind of skyrocketed because we used to live downtown. Now we live kind of outside of the city. I think originally we lived downtown, $900, $1,000
Oh, wow.
was kind of getting you luxurious places.
Sure.
Now 900, 1,000 isn't getting you anything. Rent, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 is kind of making the city unlivable unless you're
wow.
wealthy.
Good to know. And then what's one of your hopes or dreams for the next 2 years, let's say?
For Atlanta per se, or just
No,
myself?
for yourself.
I want a house.
Okay.
I want a new car. But
Cool.
those are like monetary stuff. Realistically, I just want to be able to honestly and truly just walk outside and just be like, okay, I'm comfortable, I'm happy, I'm enjoying life, without having to be like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? What's stress there? What new law I have to learn about here?
Yeah.
What tax and stuff is gonna affect me personally? I
Yeah.
kind of just want to be out in the open and be like, okay, I'm fine, everything's great.
And do you feel like as a black man you have less of a chance with that, or because people talk about the wealth gap
Yeah.
because of race here in the city?
Definitely, especially with tats, piercings, being gay. It's kind of just you kind of already start off as a negative.
Yeah.
And then you have to kind of force people to believe, oh, you do have all the credentials that you say you do, regardless if I have a degree or not.
Yeah.
Because I have a degree in criminal justice. So it's kind of
cool.
just yeah, you can have a degree, but somebody who looks in quotes more of the part will have a better chance.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
All right.
Is this the Atlanta Shane was talking about? The one where Ponce City Market stands as a vibrant, trendy hub, diverse on the surface, but polished enough to cater to those who can afford it? A city that wears its history proudly, yet continues to wrestle with the same disparities that have shaped it for generations.
This is the Beltline. New York is the High Line, similar project, but the Beltline is basically a transformation project of the city of Atlanta that is 22 miles long, and it connects 45 neighborhoods. And it's something that has been ongoing and is trying to make it more walkable, accessible, but also is a project that basically retransforms the city and is trying to shape the city in a way, from restaurants and parks to some stores, retail spaces, office spaces, and so on. And it's a really neat way to connect the city and communities with each other. So if you're in Atlanta, and you want to see how much progress we've made in the city, they made in the city, I don't live here, this is, I think, one of those projects. It's a little bit controversial because some people don't like how this is pushing out some of the folks that, you know, are living here, and it's diversifying Atlanta and not making this as affordable anymore. So, I mean, there's always two sides to the story, isn't there? So I think that's something to just consider.
Atlanta, home to two legacies, Jimmy Carter and Martin Luther King Jr. Though generations apart, their mission intertwined. King's dream of equality, Carter's tireless work for human rights. The Carter Center is in the heart of Atlanta. It embodies that shared vision, a place where peace and health and justice, principles championed by both, continue to inspire the world. The history nerd in me, of course, had to go check out the Carter Center. It is a global hub for peace and health initiatives founded by President Jimmy Carter. From eradicating diseases to promoting democracy and human rights, it's where big ideas turn into real-world change. All with the signature Carter humility and the smile that he was so famous for. I even had a chance to see the White House. After all these new impressions, I worked up a hunger on how long things have taken to change.
Okay. Somebody's asking, how long will prejudice blind the visions of men? I come to say to you this afternoon, however difficult the moment, yes, sir, however frustrating the hour, it will not be long. How long? Not long.
These words were delivered 60 years ago at the footsteps of the Capitol in Alabama. I could not help but think, what would MLK say if I could see us today? Would he rejoice or be disgusted by the events in our nation?
One thing, of course, in Atlanta is barbecue, and the best place, in my opinion, is Fox Brothers Barbecue. Two brothers from Texas, they started this place. They missed their home, they missed their barbecue. And so they got all the ingredients and everything set up here for the last 20 years or so. And it's pretty freaking good. So I got a little bit of everything tonight, which is like a pulled pork, ribs, brisket, mac and cheese, and some beans. So they don't take reservations. You just get calm and walk in and grab a seat and have yourself some good barbecue. Definitely the place to have a night out before you go to the bars, maybe.
To the bars I went. I found another example of keeping the image of Atlanta for the rich that Shane told me about. The red phone booths, pretentious and only accessible if you have the number for the phone. Was there still another side to Atlanta that was for the common people? I'm glad you asked. Meet the underground.
The underground is once again, you see the theme here, a transformed space that is all about art and culture. And First Friday is basically where they have art installations, and you can walk around and take a look at different places, but it's also a nightclub, or a nightclub area. So I'm just taking a look around. It seems pretty dead, to be honest.
What's wrong? It is not boring. There's a lot going on. I'm going to try to show you around the best I can, but it's loud as fuck in here, so pardon if the mic is not picking up everything. But let's take a look around and see what this is all about, and see if we, just meet some people, maybe interview some people, and take a look around.
So what's going on in here?
So this exhibit is called When Words Were Worlds.
Yeah.
So tapping into the etymology the root words and how that's connected to the land, and how like most African Americans, most black melanated people in America don't speak their original tongue. They speak their colonizers' tongues. But I've done research and learned that like your handwriting, your drawing skills are inherited. You know what I mean? 1 gram of DNA holds 100 billion gigabytes of data.
Wow.
Let's think about that. You know what I mean?
What inspired you to do that? Like what inspired your art?
The search for self.
Okay.
I don't, you know what I mean? I'm now starting to look into like old census and archive, but I'm 25 years old, so for a long time,
Yeah.
I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
There's more to the slave narrative,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even with that, I don't know where in Africa I come
Yeah.
from. I'm trying to understand where the Native American in me comes from, the Muskogee, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? The Maya, all of these
Yeah.
things that are interplaying, the Kimite, the
Yeah.
Kushites, you know what I mean?
So like seeking self-identity.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
But at the same time, as I seek self-identity, I see interconnectedness of melanated people pre-colonialism. You feel
Awesome.
me?
And what's your name?
Wynter Belle.
And where can people find your art?
You can find me at wynter.belle on Instagram, and that's Wynter with a Y, not an I.
All right, cool.
Walk up in the spot, they be like,
Next thing you know, I was watching a fashion show in the underground.
he claimed that he faithful, he up. Every time I pop out, they be screaming out like, whoa, 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 whoa.
I left the underground filled with a sense of hope. Seeing people come together, uplifting each other, and supporting their local community was a reminder of Martin Luther King Jr.'s vision. This dream wasn't just about changing laws, it was about building a future where unity and progress thrived in the hearts of people. And this was really present here.
Sitting nice.
Of course, I couldn't leave Atlanta with some good old Southern kitchen, and of course what's more Southern than chicken waffles. So I had some of that before I was heading out.
Guys, that concludes our time in Atlanta. What a place, people, history, unbelievable. I am dumbfounded, to be honest. I didn't expect Atlanta to be this exciting. The underground, very cool, meeting people, the Jimmy Carter Library, and even in the footsteps of MLK. So this was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I hope you liked it. If you had a good time, please give it a like, thumbs up, helps me out, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. And keep making memories.
Walk up in the spot, they be like, whoa. Set it up, it's on the floor. He claimed that he faithful, he up. Every time I pop out, they be screaming.